Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by Cinematic Visions, and another visit with Tim Finn on Danny and Tim's Music Scene. Every other Wednesday we do it, and it's always a blast for me, and I know by the numbers it's always a blast for you. And we're at it again as we really are getting back into the swing of things. Certainly not all the way, but live music is coming back, and I saw a show, and Tim saw a show, and we're still catching up with advice on documentaries and things like that. So we've got iconic figures from Bob Dylan to Carole King to more close to this era type of people like the Foo Fighters and Jason Aldean. Kesha is in the mix in this one, remarkably enough, in association with Bob Dylan, who had his 80th birthday the other day. All kinds of things to talk about. A great documentary that Tim has advice on about Native Americans and their impact on the rock music scene. And we are starting to look to promoters talking about where they're going to really put their emphasis, and different areas of the country have still different restrictions as far as COVID is concerned, but certainly we know that this summer is going to be a lot warmer musically than last summer, and as we head toward the fall, there's a lot of talk that it's really going to be exploding. The bands want to get back out on the road, the fans want to get back into the clubs and the arenas, and we are now able to do so to a much larger extent while still taking some precautions and making sure we don't have a little setback. But music is always great. It's helped gotten me through the pandemic as well, and we think that during our time with Danny and Tim's Music Scene during the pandemic, we've given you a lot of great suggestions for things you can do away from music venues. And now we're looking towards a future where we can do both, get back into venues and see live music and the joys of that, and still enjoy music in many, many different ways. It's always a pleasure, it's always fun, it's always informative, and it always gives you an idea of some things to do with Tim Finn. He's from 90.9 The Bridge, you can hear him there. He's from In Kansas City Magazine, you can read his writing there. He's been such a great part of the Kansas City music scene for a long time, and he's been such a great part of the Reasonably Irreverent podcast and Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday presented by Cinematic Visions for 2.5 years now. It's a great pleasure always to visit with him, and we'll start our usual enjoyable journey coming up next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300.
The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top-quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family. Most of us have experienced auto accidents, and it's no fun. And even less fun is trying to work on the insurance aspects afterwards and getting full value after an auto accident. I'm here with David Cowan from WreckExpert.com. And David, you have an unusual and important niche for people after an auto accident.
We have a passion to teach car wreck clients what they deserve. Getting your car repaired only fixes the damage and the paint. Getting paid for your car's loss in value is called diminished value. Chances are you've never heard of this before because most people aren't looking out for you. We help people collect thousands to tens of thousands of dollars for their car's loss in value after the wreck.
And if somebody wants to come to you for that, what's the original assessment cost them?
We offer a free review of any insurance claim to see how we can help.
You can't beat that. Great expertise and assistance in getting full value after an auto accident from David Cowan. Visit recexpert.com and learn more. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodle from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Tim, it seems like for a while we were taking little baby steps in music, and now it seems like we're taking giant leaps, and that's a great thing. Lollapalooza was in Chicago, rolling out with all kinds of hundreds of thousands of people, and we see other things, baseball parks, basketball arenas full, and I just did air travel for the first time. Now, air travel with a mask on, and they still are mandating that, is not really a heck of a lot of fun as I went home. And it's so funny to see the different attitudes that you have, because here in the Midwest and in Missouri and Kansas, the mask mandate is over. And I know that they had so much more success as far as keeping the things down in places like Massachusetts, or at least recovering more quickly. And so I got there, and right away I'm like walking into a place, and everybody's got their mask. It was all mask. It was mask mandated, crazy, intense, just like 4 months ago in Massachusetts. It was a really weird dichotomy, but still they are opening up. It's just kind of funny to see different attitudes in different places.
Yeah, because I know I've been talking to promoters around here. So a lot of them promote regionally and nationally, and live music is going to come back sooner in the Midwest than it is on the coast, just for that reason. There's a lot more caution, even if it's not mandated, and they just feel more optimistic that in the Midwest they can get larger, if not full capacities at venues, especially outdoor venues. So, yeah, it's still we are reopening, but it's piecemeal, and it's going to be by state, region, municipality, who knows. But nothing wrong with being cautious.
Absolutely.
I went to my first live event. I've been to another one since, and I felt safe. But it's kind of like we're walking on thin ice, and let's be careful, because we want the ice beneath us to freeze before we go going through it.
That absolutely sounds like a great hockey analogy. We used to go play river hockey, and the river was never going to completely freeze out there in the middle, although very occasionally it did. In the cove, it was safe, but sometimes parents would come down and throw a boulder out there or something like that because they didn't want you to fall in through the ice. But we're kind of in.
You had to listen for that telltale noise where it was like there was this groan, and you were like, well, okay, don't go over there.
Well, we used to have one of the goals facing out towards the middle of the river, and one of them faced the riverbank. and you weren't supposed to lift the puck, but still, you'd miss the net, and the puck would go screaming out towards the middle, and eventually we'd run out of pucks. But there'd be a few of them laying out there on what looked to be the thinner ice. So we'd draw straws, and some guy would go out there on his belly. It was really, it was really stupid. Like we thought, we're spreading our weight out so we could grab a couple more pucks and keep on playing.
But that is the way to do it. You're dispersing the weight, because I went through the ice a couple times getting our one and only puck from another part of the pond we always skated on and played on. But yeah, it became like a little survival technique, and because we only had one, whoever shot it had to go get it. So we tended to be more careful about it. I was the lightest one playing too, so I was the least, pose the least risk of going through. But yeah. Because even after I went through, like we had just started, like you're gonna play, dude, because we need you,
and you're frozen to death.
You're freezing, yeah.
Just one more silly hockey story from then. I played at a time when NHL players, many of them, were just transitioning into wearing helmets, but most players didn't wear helmets. And like Bobby Orr, our hero, he didn't wear a helmet. And so for Christmas, we'd get all this hockey gear, and our parents all bought us helmets, no doubt. So they'd drop us off at the pond, but you had to walk through the trees to get to the pond. And there'd be 20 guys out there playing river hockey, and there'd be 20 helmets sitting on the riverbank, and nobody wearing a helmet. That was
no.
Well, I went to my first live event too. It was a couple Saturdays back. The Mavericks. Since that we last talked, and you wanted to hear about the atmosphere, and it was a unique situation going in. First of all, it looked like it was going to rain, but it didn't. In fact, the sun came out. But the way they handled the shows was instead of one show each night, full bore, it was going to be two unplugged. And clearly, because the shows were sold out, because I know how fast they did, they hadn't set them at full capacity. But still, there were a lot of people there. And I was a little trepidatious about the unplugged aspect of it, because the rambunctious and joyous nature of a Mavericks concert is what it's all about, and it was no concern whatsoever. They had the horn section going, and it was just incredibly lively, and the only difference was that Raul and Eddie were sitting down. That was it. But it was an unbelievably joyous occasion. It was the first time I think almost all the people in the crowd had been anywhere outside having a good time with no mask. The mask mandate had been dropped. And I spent every bit as much watching the crowd and how happy they were as the stage, and the hope that people weren't going to dance or whatever. Yeah, they were separated out and everything. That was crazy. They were going crazy. And it's always fun to see people of a certain age who probably don't even dance at weddings dance at a concert.
Right.
But I was just swept away by how incredibly happy the crowd was, and I think we're going to see a little of this, and then I hope people don't get used to the fact of the feeling of how happy they are to be back doing things that they love.
Yeah, it was a catharsis. Well, that same night, we talked about going to see the band that played at our wedding reception, the Starhaven Rounders. They're a Kansas City band. They cover just classic, old school country covers they do all night, and they've got three singers, and really great band. They're so much fun, and they were supposed to play at Lemonade Park, but a day or two before, they were looking at the weather forecast, which looked really grim, so they decided to move it indoors to the record bar, which gave us pause. But Saturday we decided, well, let's just go. We're vaccinated. We're going to know most of the people there, and we'll trust them, to be honest about whether or not they're vaccinated, and we'll keep our distance. So we went down there, and it was inside. A lot of people who had bought tickets for the outdoor event did not go. They turned in their tickets for a refund. So there were about 70 people in there, and yeah, it was the same mood. People kind of walking around wide-eyed, like, I can't believe I'm back here again. So, and there was that for me, but what was really curious was about 30 minutes in, and I'm watching the band, and I'm off to the side. I'm standing with people I've known forever, and everyone's like looking like, yeah, I'm good, yeah, okay, but still being, cautious a little bit, and about 30, 45 minutes in, I'm like, wow, this feels like I never left. I mean, it feels so good to be here. And the last time I'd been in the record bar was in January of 2020 to see that same band. It was, because we like to go see them. They're great. So it was just this weird time suspension. And it didn't feel like a year ago, but then it did feel like 4 years ago.
Right.
Just trying to navigate that feeling of, wow, it's been so long, but then again, it doesn't feel like it's been that long. This feels so natural and so good. But it was good. People were dancing, and I stayed off to the side and just the thing I had to get used to was yelling to talk, and being yelled at to listen. Because I'm like, I didn't miss that at all.
Say the name of the band again.
Starhaven Rounders. It's
Okay.
2 words.
Yep.
Starhaven Rounders. Yeah, they just do everything. It's all George Jones, Johnny Cash. They do some contemporary stuff from Dwight Yoakam, and they do cover of Purple Rain that is absolutely fabulous. The first time I heard it was at our wedding reception, and it stopped the room. People were, wait a minute, once you recognize the song,
Right.
just the way they arrange it, it's so perfect. I mean, to cover Prince, you got to have some gumption, and they gave it just this very slight country accent, but they didn't overdo it. And it was great. So highly recommend them. Look them up. They do. I mean, they're so good. They get hired to do weddings and corporate events, and they do have a really good following. So they play out, once a month. But I highly, highly recommend them if you like really old time classic country music.
And you mentioned that obviously they do some covers, and Bob Dylan turned 80 yesterday, and Rolling Stone did a piece where they listed their 80 best covers that people have done of Bob Dylan songs. First of all, the incredible volume of that is, just mind-blowing. Secondly, just to scratch the surface, I mean, the diversity of the people who have done the covers of Bob Dylan songs like Dream Syndicate, Kesha, The Roots, Cheap Trick, The Clash. For instance, one great example I found when I was listening recently to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame radio with my wife, and It Ain't Me, Babe came on by Dylan, and his version is great, and it's such a bitter, brave song is what my wife said about, sorry, I'm not going to love you. And then the Turtles version was great, and it was more of a poppy, and that was the big hit. And then Betty LaVette has done a cover of it. I mean, it's just remarkable how Dylan's versions of songs can be absolutely him, and then another version of the same song is a great song, but it's almost a different song. I mean, that's the remarkable thing about his songwriting, I think.
Yeah, he 2 covers I can think of. One of them was it just spun my music brain 180 degrees. There's a band called Jason and the Scorchers.
Yeah, I actually had some cassettes by them back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, they do a cover of Sweet Marie,
Right.
Where Are You Tonight, Sweet Marie. It's like one of the legendary cow punk, country punk songs, and that's one where they, what you were saying, a band took a Dylan song and made it into something completely new that you wouldn't associate with him. But it's one of the reasons it's so great is because the song is so good, and it would be hard to ruin it. But what they did was really special. And then the Dixie Chicks do. There's a live version of Mississippi, that song he wrote.
Right.
That's really fabulous. Or they're the Chicks now. Sorry, but
right.
They so there's those 2 I can think of right off the top. But you're right. There's just hundreds of them that are really good. Some are worthwhile, but I don't think there's one. I've heard one where I thought, well, that's just really awful.
Right. And so I think a lot of times people will hear a Bob Dylan song and it sounds so Bob Dylan that you're like, well, nobody could really cover that and have it sound. I mean, I guess one of the most popular and the number one was, how different and how great are both his version of All Along the Watchtower and Hendrix's version of All Along the Watchtower. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Right. Also, one that I just thought of, Buckwheat Zydeco.
Right.
So it's an outstanding version of On a Night Like This, with in total Zydeco vibe. So yeah, it's great. those are the ones that I remember most, is how they're adapted to a different genre, and it's not kitschy. It works.
Right. And it seems to me like for people who maybe are over affected by Dylan's voice, or maybe in his later days, sometimes in different concerts and everything, might more have had respect for Dylan as an iconic songwriter of a generation, like Irving Berlin or the Beatles or something, if he had never recorded anything himself, because there's a lot of Dylan haters out there for sure.
Yeah, who can't get past the voice, and I don't give them a second
right
consideration. I mean, I get it. Music is subjective, and if you don't like it, fine, just ignore it. But people who, go up on a diatribe and imply that if you like him, there's something wrong with you, I have no time for that. But yeah, he's written so many good songs. I mean, like, I listened to Blonde on Blonde yesterday, and it's like, oh my God, this is better than I remember it. All you have to do is getting older and finding a deeper appreciation of the lyrics and everything. But what a perfect record. And Blood on the Tracks was the one that really sold me on him. My brother was playing him before that record came out, and being how old I was, the voice was a problem for me.
Right.
He would make fun of it, but Blood on the Tracks, it just hit me at a time where a light went on, and I was, okay, I get this. This is a really amazing songwriter, lyricist, and what a great band. And you know what? His voice suits the music.
Yes, it does, and then somebody else's voice suits the music. It's really, really amazing. One more before we take our first time out, and this is the type of thing that maybe when you're younger you get all fired up, but I was just sort of taken aback so much that I thought I'd bring up. This happened just after we last got together. My wife and I were driving down the road to St. Charles, another step forward. She had a business trip there, and when it was originally planned, she didn't know if she could drive, so I took her, and it was great. Did some bike riding while she was working and all that good stuff. But so we're listening to Rock and Roll Hall of Fame radio, and after every couple of songs, they'd come on and say, congratulations to the 21 class, and they'd name them off, and it's a very imposing and outstanding class with all kinds of great people, Foo Fighters, etc., lots of iconic people. And but then, they said the Go-Go's, which is fine, and although I don't know if it's fine, I'll get into that in a minute. And then they said, and Carole King. And I'm like, Carole King isn't in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet?
Right.
I mean,
yeah.
I was absolutely stupefied. Now, I'm also a bit stupefied that the same Hall of Fame class includes the Go-Go's, which is a nice, fun band, and Carole King. But I was just absolutely blown away that Carole King was getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2021.
Yeah, with the Go-Go's. And Tina Turner as well. So that class that just came in epitomized for me why I look at it, I see who's nominated, and I, take note of who gets, inducted, and then I just leave it alone because there's no sense to it. And the Go-Go's are kind of epitomized that they have their historical importance, as an all-women band and at that time, and I like their music a lot, but what?
Right.
No, it's like, it's like inducting into the TV Hall of Fame a sitcom that's been okay for 2 seasons. And
perfect analogy.
No.
Well, here's the thing we used to do, like, when you're in elementary school, who doesn't belong on this list? Here are the, performer, early influencer, and musical excellence for this year. Tina Turner, Carole King, the Go-Go's, Jay-Z, Foo Fighters, Todd Rundgren, Kraftwerk, Charlie Patton, Gil Scott-Heron, LL Cool J, Billy Preston, Randy Rhoads. Who doesn't belong on? Who stands out on that list like a sore thumb? And that's, people always say if you point something out like that, you're saying the Go-Go's suck. No, I like the Go-Go's. They were fine, but they were a moment in time, too. That's not what a Hall of Fame is for, I don't think, especially when she's going in along one of the most famous and influential songwriter-performers in the history of popular music. I mean, it's weird, just weird.
And, as much as I love Dave Grohl and Foo Fighters, that's borderline for me right now. They're a good band of their time, and he's one of my favorite. You could put him in alone just for who he is and what he's done.
Right,
but,
the influence, yeah.
But Foo Fighters, that was, at the expense of other bands, I think are probably more deserving.
Right, and there's probably a longer list that people are sitting out there saying, well, this band isn't in, or this guy isn't in, or this person isn't in, and that can infuriate people more. But I guess that's kind of why we have these discussions, and I guess why it's kind of why when you get a little bit older, you don't get. I was more just shocked. That was my. I was like, huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Right. Not only was she not in, she's going in with the Go-Go's. That makes no sense.
Yes, indeed. We're visiting with Tim Finn. Of course, we do it every other Wednesday. He is from, you can hear him at 90.9 The Bridge. You can read his work at In Kansas City Magazine. He's been really an influential person in the Kansas City music scene forever and a day. Just a treasure and always fun to talk to him every other Wednesday, and we will continue to do so. Coming up next on Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, it's presented by Cinematic Visions on the Reasonably Irreverent podcast.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses. And 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you. We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it used on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company and Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
We're back with Tim Finn, always having fun on alternate Wednesdays. Boy, made it all the way through this podcast without the usual ridiculous phrase that I use for when we get together.
Right.
Often during this pandemic, and maybe we'll be doing a little bit less of this as live music comes around, but I don't think we should necessarily, because I think there's just one of the things the pandemic did was not force us, but sort of encourage us to explore music documentaries and music in different ways, because we couldn't go out and see it as much. And you've got a documentary recommendation.
Yeah, it's called Rumble, and it was released in July of 2017. And I'm sure some music aficionados will recognize the name and where the name came from. It's from an instrumental that was composed by Link Wray, who what this documentary helped me got me to is a place where I appreciate him even more than I did. My appreciation for him was kind of standard. I knew he was, a guy who he's American Indian, and he came out of nowhere. And but what he did with the guitars he influenced people like the Kinks and the Who. Once they heard him, it changed the way they approached the guitar and how they applied it to their music. It's really raucous and unshaved and unpolished and loud and brash. And Rumble was, like I said, an instrumental. It was banned from radio. No lyrics, but it was banned from commercial radio because people in charge thought it was too sinister and it was going to encourage gang violence, which it had nothing to do. Link Wray looked a little bit like a gangster. That didn't help, but as he said, Rumble referred to the chaos. It's just like this tumult, this rabble of sound and noise, and you're creating a disturbance, but it's not necessarily violent. So, but it goes from there into just the influence that people of indigenous North American Indians they had on rock and roll, and everyone from Link Wray to Robbie Robertson speaks very eloquently, and it made me appreciate him more because he had sort of grown to annoy me. I've seen him speak a couple times and thought he was a little full of himself, but he talks about just being an Indian and being raised to kind of hide your identity when necessary, because when he decided he was going to be a musician, one of his elders, he had absorbed so much traditional tribal Indian music that it became part of his music identity. But he was also in love with rock and roll, and we know his story with Ronnie Hawkins and Dylan and all that. But when he had decided he was going to go into music, one of his elders pulled him aside and said, "Always be proud of your Indian heritage, but be very careful who you tell." And so he proceeded that way, and a lot of American Indians did so because it could be detrimental to them, to their careers, to their safety. And this documentary goes into how basically they were as marginalized and mistreated as any culture, whether it's Hispanic or African American, and all that has happened to them, and how these people like Link Wray and Robbie Robertson and Bobby St. Marie, Steve Salas, who was an amazing heavy metal drummer, played with Ozzy, just an incredible drummer who died of cancer at a really criminally young age. But the guy this exposed me to was this guitarist named Jesse Ed Davis, who I should have known much more about. And he had this style that was so unique. Everyone wanted him to tour with them, part of the touring bands, and he toured with a bunch of people and a big heavyweight arena bands. But the story about him that really struck me was Jackson Browne wanted him. He was, just everyone fell in love with his style, wanted him to record something for us. I guess it was a Saturate Before Using record, and he showed Jesse Ed Davis a song, and he was like, doesn't really do much for me. It doesn't inspire me, thanks, maybe some other time. So Jackson Brown showed him Doctor My Eyes. He went, oh, I can do something. He listened to it. And that lead guitar you hear
right
in that song, which is absolutely fabulous. I mean, I can hear it on, instantly. It's him just sort of after hearing the song once or twice and just kind of improvising. And it's just a fabulous, one of my favorite guitar solos. So that's who he was. And his story was tragic too. He fell into drugs, got swept into the rock drug lifestyle back then, which was really, it was everything, and especially heroin. And he ended up on Skid Row literally, and then made some kind of comeback, and it looked like he had conquered his demons. And then, he was found dead with a needle in his arm. But just this movie, it covers so much territory, specifically with certain people, with Link Ray, and Buffy St. Marie is really, really interesting and articulate and provocative of the things she has to say. Not about, obviously she's a woman and she's of Indian ancestry, and really interesting, and just the larger, broader picture of how, guess what, the white culture in this country stole from us, our music, so forth, but then marginalized us and mistreated us in the meantime. And also Hendrix was talked about a lot because he's part Cherokee, and a grandmother or great-grandmother who was full 100% Indian, who influenced him. Like when you see him wearing some of the
right,
that's why he's not appropriating it, having fun with it like a lot of hippies did. It's like, no, this is my heritage. This is why I wear this and respect it, and appreciate and respect that culture.
Well, that certainly sounds like, and that is called Rumble, obviously.
Yeah.
And let's.
I think CBS put it out, so you might, if you have access to their library and their catalog, you might find it in there.
Well,
I watch it on Canopy.
There's so many different access points for all kinds of different things now that that's absolutely the case. You touched on a little bit heading out, and then you touched on, talking to some promoters and things like that. We always do try to get a little pulse check. I'd say from maybe a month ago to now, do you think we've maybe jumped forward more in a month than we thought we were going to?
Oh, easily. I ran into somebody in downtown Overland Park last weekend who I've known for years. He does, backstage runner production responsibilities for shows and at all the venues around here. But he also goes out of town when his promotion company does a lot of business in the Midwest. And he's been doing shows frequently over the last 2 weekends, and says it's just going to pick up, and just wait till the fall. There's going to be more shows announced, and not just from their company, but I guess I heard that heard an ad on the radio station that there's a Jason Aldean show at T-Mobile Center,
right?
Which I didn't know about, but that's huge. Maybe it's next year. I didn't check the date, but yes, this is rolling in. And when I was at the show at Record Bar, one of the people I talked to was a guy who owns a big music promotion, live music company, and he just said to me, goes, just the way everyone's lining up to do shows. We're trying to sort it out now when we can fit everyone in, and and also juxtaposing that with whose safety protocols are what, and what's capacity going to be. And he said that they are, like, now they're working with venue owners to cut, sort of, make compromises with prices and capacity, so no one's losing a ton of money, or maybe you're just breaking even. But for now, that's what we have to do until we get to the point where, the numbers are normal or close to normal. So there's a lot of negotiating going on, and a lot of, working together between all the many sides involved in this process, including the bands. But he said it's dizzying because it's what we expected, but it's become more than we expected, sooner than we expected it. So, and I said, are you worried about too many shows and not enough people? And he's like, oh yeah, but what are we going to do? It's full steam ahead at this point and keeping everything in mind. And he's very much about, masking when you should and all the protocols. He was very evangelical about the safety and quarantine and all that stuff. So he said most people have that in mind because the last thing they want to do is slip back even slightly and have to pull on the brakes again, because that's what's so expensive, is stopping it and restarting it.
Absolutely, and I think that one thing we'll probably see, we talked to maybe 2 or 3 shows ago about how, the streaming aspect of it was going to be here to stay, and I think that's absolutely true. But I think all people will have to do is go to a show again and realize, because they may think, I don't miss that much. It was expensive. It was crowded. I had to yell, whatever. And then you go and you're like, oh, my God, this is the greatest thing in the world. So I think that there'll probably be quite an explosion.
Yeah, I think so, too. And I mean, we're probably, we're likely, most likely a year. Like next summer, it will be, people are still getting vaccinated, probably not at the rate we wish they would, because herd immunity is either not going to happen or it's going to take much longer than we thought. But, I think it's going to be at least then, so where you're at, 75 to 80% capacity, and you're back into the swing a bit, because, there's also the risk that people got used to not going and who weren't, that's a pretty substantial part of the live music industry is people go to one show a year. It's a big deal for them.
Right.
But they pick that one show, and will they come back? That's unforeseen. We don't know. But the diehards are going to show up. We know that. The clubs and the arenas, it's that part of the audience that, will find maybe an alternative or is going to wait to make absolutely sure that it's going to be safe. Or they may decide, because I don't think ticket prices are going to go down.
Right.
Everything's in full motion. Whether it's worth the expense, we don't know. But we'll have a chance to find out, because there's going to be more shows coming than you can attend. There's going to be nights where there's 2, maybe 3 shows you want to go to on the same night.
That sounds good to me. Tim, always a pleasure. Every other Wednesday we do it, and look forward to the next one.
Great. Sounds good, Danny.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Cinematic Visions, an affordable and award-winning solution for professional media production since 2003.